And welcome back, everybody, to a podcast in space and time. Today we're reviewing Doctor Who Series 1, Episode 7. I'm Holden B. Huffman, and this is...
Kendal Coffee.
And today we're going to find out why we hate Adam Mitchell so much. So join us here in just a few moments, and we'll be right back. Okay, Kendal, do you know why you hate Adam Mitchell so much?
First of all, I just want to point out how much you wanted to say season in that intro.
Yeah, I keep messing up. Like, I know most people say
so
series.
hard.
It's so hard. Like, because like I want to make sure I'm saying series because I don't want to get confused with the seasons, because that's what Classic Who, they call it with Classic Who, seasons. And like, I just don't want to get it mixed up.
Well, and I guess that's an English thing, because like in America we say season pretty much for everything. Like series usually refers to like the show as a whole, so it's very confusing.
Well, it's not always that in England, because like because that's what it's called in Classic Who, is season. Like they did it differently to try to not confuse people.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, we're talking about
the revived
today.
Series.
Yeah. Adam. You know, he just he really stepped in it,
and he's just not a good, well-written character either.
I sort of get his motivations throughout this episode, like
money.
He wants to be on like the cutting edge of whatever technology or something. And
like this is a very Back to the Future thing. Like, oh, let me grab this book of baseball sports team wins and everything. And when we go back to the present, I'll just start betting on these things.
Yeah. And you know, Adam's definitely like, that's his whole thing. He's not even really like, I mean, I guess he's kind of enjoying the future for what it is, but he's mostly just there to like make some dough.
Yeah.
And gets everybody in trouble doing so.
Mm-hmm. And almost loses the TARDIS. And first off, I blame that on Rose of giving him the TARDIS key in the first place.
Yeah, it was a mistake for Rose to trust him as much as she did, knowing him for like a day.
Right, yeah. And you know, like the Doctor, there was some episodes before he gave her a key.
Yeah, for sure.
Like he had to build up the trust. She had to build up the trust before earning a TARDIS key. And heck, she didn't even know that was a thing that she could have. Right.
And then she's just like, oh yeah, why don't you take the TARDIS key? The key to all of space and time. Yeah. Which, like, honestly, I feel like I have had some really deep-seated hatred for Adam that I didn't really know why. And even watching this episode again, I'm like, I'm still not quite sure why, because he's here for 2 episodes.
I think it's his character, his personality. It's bland. It's so bland.
Yeah, there's something about him. He seems like a person that I probably have known someone like him. And
we all have our own Adam Mitchell.
Yeah. Who's the Adam Mitchell in your life?
Well, I would name names, but then they wouldn't associate with me anymore.
Is it me?
Yes.
It's me, isn't it?
Yes.
Dang it.
Yeah, Kendal, that's why I wanted to start the show. I didn't know how to get it through to you that you are the
you
Adam
really wanted to
my life.
You wanted to have an Adamvention and really let me know that I was being a real Adam in life. And you know what? I respect that. I can respect.
There was no other way for me to see it of trying to convince you other than to start a Doctor Who podcast. And
you know what? You're right. I'm going to be better. I'm going to not live my life trying to steal secrets from the future for money anymore. I'm gonna go sober on the whole stealing future secrets front from here on out. Making a pact right now.
That's very commendable, and I will be here to back you up.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Now, who's the Adam Mitchell in your life? Is it me?
Honestly, like I don't know if I can even name names specifically, but it's just
Oh, I could.
There's just like an impression of a person that I
Uh-huh.
probably know and dislike in some way.
Mm-hmm. I definitely have one, but I'm not mentioning that name.
Let's not throw anybody under the bus on the podcast.
Yeah. Not yet. We're not that far yet.
Yeah, overall, just like not a really memorable episode.
Mm-mm.
And I can't even say exactly why. I think it's just a combination of things.
Mm-hmm.
Like the message was very on the nose.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't feel like there was any subtlety to it or nuance
not
in
at
any
all.
way. And it may just be because we're living in 2020 and this is a message that's been so overdone at this point.
Mm-hmm. And this was 2005, so I mean maybe for the time it worked, but like going back to it, it doesn't work like it could have back then. I mean,
by now
I didn't watch the show when it first aired in 2005, so I don't know.
Yeah, by now I've seen this very similar premise so many times that it's just kind of
even in Doctor Who,
even within Doctor Who, yeah.
And we'll discuss that in the spoiler section.
Yes. So I do feel like there's maybe a good episode in there somewhere, but I don't know. Just
I can think of one. I can think of one, but again, I don't want to get into that quite yet.
Yeah. Even like, and I feel like this hasn't really been a big issue in the show, but even within like the setting, I had a hard time getting a sense of where they really were.
The set was kind of bland.
There wasn't really any sense of space, like within the sets. Like when they go up to floor 500, was it?
Yeah, it was floor 500.
I really didn't realize that you had this. You had the weird chamber with like the chair and all the zombie people.
It was like a cult.
And
like I kept telling you while we were watching it, this is like a cult.
Yeah, it was very cult-like, but then there was like right next door to that was where Simon Pegg's character and the weird space zit thing was, and they didn't feel like they should have been right next door to each other, but they were. And when the Doctor and Rose like just waltzed into this little like command room or whatever, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
How did they get there? And I feel like that was an issue all throughout the episode. Even in like a little marketplace, I really didn't have a sense of like what the scale of that place was.
Right.
How many people were there. You know,
and like I can understand like not having a big budget, but I felt like there could have been some creative way to get a sense of it.
Yeah, I feel like there are ways of making it work even without the budget, because again, this hasn't really been a problem in the show up to this point.
Right.
And I think we saw a very similar set in The End of the World. Is that the episode?
Yeah, I even think they reused part of the set, like the overview, like where you saw where the station part where you could overlook the planet Earth. I'm pretty sure that was the same set where Rose almost died from the shields collapsing.
Yeah, and in that episode, I didn't really have that same issue of just getting lost within the space.
Right. No, that was a nice space station setting.
It also may be just because I had a harder time just paying attention to this episode in general. I don't know. There was something about it that didn't really catch me, and my mind just wandered. And we, as we were watching it, we got off on like very different conversations.
We started talking about religion. We started talking about Buddhism and Christianity and everything, like and atheism, atheists and whatnot. It just got we We got sidetracked while watching it.
We got very sidetracked while Rose was getting attacked by like frozen zombies or whatever, and then we like had to snap back in and be like, "Oh yeah, we should probably be paying attention."
Right.
Um,
Like usually I have at least a page of notes. I barely have half a page of notes.
yeah. I mean, like I guess my other things I wrote down about this episode. One just thing that was kind of funny was the doctor casually robbing an ATM. He just like sonics an ATM and gets unlimited cash out of it.
Mm-hmm. And like he does it again later on. That's not really a big spoiler, so
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I feel like the doctor is very I'm gonna pronounce this wrong, but blasé faire about that kind of thing where he's just kind of like, we need money. Let's just Sonic it.
Right. And oh my gosh, Mickey Smith. What about Mickey? Like Rose, they're calling Adam her boyfriend. I'm like, what about Mickey?
And she doesn't even correct the doctor. That's what bothered me. Like,
yeah.
If she had been like, no, we're just friends. Mickey is my boyfriend, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
The guy I've been with for several years. And
right. And like, same with in the last episode, Dalek. She doesn't even tell him she has a boyfriend.
No, she's very, yeah. She doesn't really seem to care about Mickey when he's not in the same exact room with her.
Right. And like the doctor's like, he's your boyfriend. And she's like, not anymore. I'm like, what?
When did this happen, and where did Mickey go?
Right. Okay. I did write down some really good lines. There were some really good lines I liked, mainly from the doctor.
Okay.
Look at me, I'm stupid. I loved that.
I did love that. The doctor playing dumb was very good, and it's one thing I really like about the psychic paper is that the doctor kind of, it's how he operates with the psychic paper. Sorry, I was about to say sonic paper.
Yeah.
He just kind of like says something vague and like kind of plays dumb and lets people fill in their own expectations, and it's kind of brilliant.
It really is. It's a brilliant concept.
Yeah.
And okay, my other favorite line was, "Come on, Adam, open your mind." I'm like, oh gosh, if you only knew.
Yeah.
I'm like, Adam, use that as an excuse later. Doctor, you told me to open my mind.
Yeah. I mean, he took it very literally.
Also, we saw some more mention of Bad Wolf TV.
Ooh. Wonder what
and
that
also
could mean.
The Face of Bo, the return of the Face of Bo.
Yes.
On a TV
and he is
screen.
pregnant. Congratulations, Bo.
Oh gosh.
It's not the only time we'll see a pregnant man in this show.
That's not what I was thinking. I don't want to get into that because of spoilers. But I think you know what I'm talking. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. That's a different spoiler.
I mean, that's what you said wasn't even a big spoiler.
Yeah, that was like a small part of one episode.
All right. Okay, the concept of the whole brain thing, it's just so ridiculous. Like, a part of your brain, a part of your forehead opens up to reveal your brain, and then an energy beam goes down into it. What the heck?
So I think the thing they were going for was that, like, the brain being like sort of the best processor that there could be, and like using the brain itself as a computer processor. But we're talking about the year, what was it, 500,000?
No, it was like 5 billion. Was it? No, it was 500,000, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, it was either that or 200,000. I don't exactly remember, but we're talking about very far in the future. If that far in the future, computing power of a computer is not surpassed the human brain, then I would be really surprised. I think there's going to come a point eventually when we have computers that can literally outthink a human and outreact a human.
Mm-hmm. And also, the doctor does mention that, but it's only by a difference of 90 years. Like he
Yeah.
said, like, um, your technology is just, you're held back about 90 years. I'm like, really? That's 90 years worth?
Yeah. It didn't seem like the technological advancement was really where you would expect it to be that far in the future, which I think sci-fi in general has issues with. Either it's
Mm-hmm.
like way too far, or it's just really not far enough. And there seems to be very few stories that get it just right.
Right.
You
And
know, it's
yeah.
like in those old science fiction stories where it's like in the distant future of the year 2000 man has reached the far reaches of space. And it's like, I'm really glad y'all are that optimistic about this, but
Mm-hmm.
like, we didn't go to space until like the 60s.
Mm-hmm. And then you have the ultimate cliche of, as you know, and then they start
As you
explaining
know,
it. You're like,
explaining a
guy,
thing that you
why are
should
you
know.
explaining something we already know? I'm like, uh,
uh, yeah, that's always it's always, I mean, it's hard, fitting exposition into a story,
mm-hmm.
but it never ever works when you're literally telling a character something they should already know. That's the worst possible way of doing it.
Yeah. Apologies to everyone who's hearing that. There's an ambulance going by my house, so if you hear that, just disregard that.
um,
I hope
let's
everyone's
see.
okay, but um, okay. Rose should have known Adam was up to something. Like,
Oh
he
yeah,
was completely mischievous. I'm like, Rose, come on.
it couldn't have been more obvious if he were like literally rubbing his hands together and twirling a mustache. Like that's how obviously villainous he was being.
Right. And also, something he said, Adam said, is like, I'm from the University of Mars. And then the lady's just like, oh, of course you are. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I hate that cliche where someone goes to the future or goes to space or something. And they're just like, they make up some random thing about space. And it just so happens to be true. Like, that's,
Like
I hate that cliche.
I kind of love it.
Do you?
It's really funny to me because
Like,
it's
that,
like, I mean, obviously it's like you're not going to be that good at guessing if you're in the future, but I don't know, for some reason like it's really funny to me when somebody just guesses it right and the person they're talking to has immediate like negative associations with whatever it is they said.
yeah, but this is like, to me, this is like something they do in Futurama. Like when Fry gets unfrozen, he just starts making up random stuff about, and it's totally believable. That it sounds like something from Futurama.
I think there actually is like an actual University of Mars joke in Futurama.
There
Futurama
actually
that's
is. I remember there actually is.
Yeah, I think there was
There is.
almost this exact same joke in Futurama,
Yeah, there
which
is. I remember they all went there for what's his face is like a ceremony. Like he had like a ceremony.
yeah.
I need to,
Um,
I need to, I need to finish Futurama.
Futurama's great. Yeah,
I'm on season 2.
it's a very long show. There's a lot of episodes, and I kind
Mm.
of get intimidated when I get into a show with that many episodes.
Hey, if I can finish Naruto, I can finish anything.
Yeah,
Well,
I don't
okay,
know.
I finished Naruto. I haven't finished Shippuden. I am intimidated by 500 episodes.
Yeah, I'm always intimidated by a really long show. I
Mm-hmm.
try to typically avoid getting into something that big
Oh, and
if I
here we are
can.
watching Doctor Who.
Yeah, I mean,
There's almost like 200 episodes
yeah,
now of New Who.
and that's just new. That's not even talking about
Yeah,
old Who.
that's just New Who. Okay. Okay.
My
Sorry. Go ahead.
my other thing with this episode was Simon Pegg kind of felt wasted.
Mm. I was
Um,
just about to mention Simon Pegg.
I thought you probably were.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, his character was just very, again, very like typical kind of mustache twirling
Oh,
villain.
definitely.
Maybe not quite that over the top, but I don't know. It felt like wasted for an actor of
Hmm.
his caliber.
It really did. And speaking of Simon Pegg, look, okay, I know he has his beef with Marvel because of Edgar Wright's version of Ant-Man not being made.
Right.
But I'm quoting from Looper.com. I'm quoting from Looper.com from an article they did a few years ago of actors who's criticized the MCU. This was done, it's by Michelle Martin. I think that's how you pronounce it. April 13th, 2018. Just want to cite my source. He says like superhero and sci-fi is infantilized and it takes the focus of our, and I quote, taking our focus away from real world issues, unquote. And I'm like, you are saying this? The man
Yeah.
who's been in movies like Mission Impossible, Star Trek, the Dark Crystal Netflix series, Ready Player One, Star
Re-
Wars.
the one that gets me the most out of all of those is Ready Player One because it's like one of the most escapist stories there is. And
It's so ridiculous.
this isn't to say anything negative about, about Ready Player One. I haven't seen the movie, but I know enough about it to know it's pretty much pure escapism, right? Like and Marvel at its worst, not even at its worst, is pretty escapist, which I don't really mind at all. Like I don't mind a good escapist story.
Right.
I think they have their place, but like I could understand his position if it was just about how Edgar Wright basically kind of got cheated out of doing Ant-Man. Like I get it,
Right. I can
get
totally
that,
understand that. But for him to say that it's just about any fantasy movie, sci-fi movie that just doesn't focus on real world issues, and here we are, he's talking to a giant alien zit.
Yeah, and like this episode obviously discusses the real world issue of like media
Fake
media
news. Fake news.
fake media bias
It's
or
all
whatever.
fake news. They're trying to make me look bad. Sorry, I couldn't resist.
And like obviously that's a real world issue, but I don't know, this episode just is so surface level with it.
Right, it's like so in your face about it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of talk right now going around about fake news and like
especially with COVID-19.
Yeah, and I think like it's I don't know. There's such a more complex issue than stories like this really give it credit for. And maybe this was again in 2005. It was they were probably dealing with very different issues in the news media in 2005.
And you got to remember the internet was still a semi new thing in 2005. Like most people were still relying on radio news, TV, and even newspapers still. Like newspapers are basically irrelevant now.
Yeah, I just can't imagine that even then it was as simple as this episode would make it out to be. Because I mean there is that is an issue, but it's not a simple issue, and it's not as simple as every news source is lying to you and like fake and biased and whatever. Like there's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah, exactly. Can we talk about how the TARDIS key just randomly lifts up on its own? It's not explained.
Yeah, that was weird, and just like the way it was done too, it just felt like somebody was grabbing it by the chain and picking it up.
Yeah.
It wasn't a convincing effect either.
Not at all. And also the effect for the brain was just so bad.
I mean that was, to me, was really an issue of a decent idea, but they didn't really have the budget or the technology to
It's true.
make it look convincing.
That's fair.
Yeah.
What were you saying about? You were saying something while we were watching the episode about the concept of how to open it up.
Oh yeah, so we see at the end that Adam obviously set his to open up when he snaps his finger, but what was really weird to me was that anybody could open it up by snapping their fingers,
Yeah,
um, which doesn't really make a whole lot. Like the one lady, I don't remember her name. I didn't write it down because she was sort of a minor character, but
she's not important. We'll never see her again.
we'll never see her again. But she was saying that somebody set theirs to open when they whistled, and I'm like, wait, so anybody could just whistle and this person's brain will open? This seems very just not secure at all.
And like, that's really all the notes I have, except until we could get into spoiler sections, and even then, I really don't have that many notes.
Yeah, I've got a couple things, but yeah, let's go ahead and get into spoilers then.
Spoiler warning. I can't believe Rose dies.
I can't believe Rose dies in this one.
It never gets old.
It never gets old.
Okay. Again, I literally have zero notes about the spoilers.
Okay, my two things were...
Except that the fact that the face of Bo is pregnant, which means Jack got pregnant.
Jack got pregnant. Which, I don't know. I don't know Jack's whole deal. Like, maybe when he was human he could get pregnant, but definitely like he's something different when he's the face of Bo. He's gone through some like major changes, so it's whatever. Like, face of Bo is pregnant. It's just really funny in hindsight when you look back and think like, oh, that's Jack Harkness,
right?
I wonder who he got pregnant with. My things were mostly just like comparing it to other episodes.
It definitely had some Orphan 55 vibes of throwing stuff into your face.
Yeah, the very on the nose message just reminded me of the way Orphan 55 did it.
And like, even they did it so perfectly in Praxeus. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Like, and it's so strange about that, especially since that's the same season with Orphan 55. Like, it's the exact same message, but they did it. It's like someone, like the whole team is like, we should do an episode like this. I'm like, no, I think I should do it about this. And Chibnall's like, why don't both of you do it and we'll just air both? Yeah.
We'll just air both and see which one the fans like better.
Right.
Yeah, it was, I don't know, very on the nose. And Doctor Who sometimes gets that way, but I feel like it doesn't typically get this on the nose with its message.
Right. Yeah. Doctor Who rarely gets that on the nose.
Yeah. The other episode I got similar vibes with was The Beast Below from series 5.
Right. Like just a big conspiracy going on around with like the government and like among this like space station type thing.
Right. You've got a weird creature hidden somewhere within the facility. Yeah, it was very you even had like the elevator bit, which it was a different elevators, but you still had like something funny happening in the elevators.
Right, and The Beast Below was done so much better.
I honestly think what this episode was missing was what were the weird smiling face dudes in The Beast Below?
I don't remember what they're called, but I know what you're talking about. The ones where the heads turn.
Yeah, I feel like this episode was missing something like that to really give it a sense of like dread.
Like, it just needed some security guards. Like there needed to be some security.
Yeah,
like some kind of threat, more of a threat.
Nobody really gets got by the bad guys until like halfway through the episode. Yeah, there just didn't really seem to be a sense of there wasn't really any tension, any suspense. Like nobody, you cared about was really in danger until almost to the end.
And like the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the biggest issue with it. Everything else aside, just it could have really used something to hike up the stakes.
And like you do get more stakes later on. Like you later realize at the end of the season that the Doctor doing this brought more of a downfall to the planet than just that.
But you don't feel those stakes within this episode at all.
I honestly feel like they wrote the finale before this episode and just had to do this to try to put a little more weight on the Doctor or something.
Yeah, and like I definitely can see, the connection to the finale with this episode, but I don't know. It felt like there was some wasted potential for sure.
Definitely.
So that's all I've really got.
That's all I have too. Sorry if this is short, but we've had a lot of long episodes lately. So
and I don't think anybody really cares that much about this episode. Maybe somebody
not
does.
really. So we'll see you next time for Series 1, Episode 8, Father's Day.